And this is the crowd that has gathered just in the past sort of half an hour or so. They arrived about 3:35. A lot of them were here because of the media.
It's a disaster in the making, Dan.
But the big crowd that they have seen today was at the Royal Children's Hospital. This was at lunchtime. There were hundreds of people.
Folks, it's barely started and already it's a hot mess.
I mean, I feel like we are mugs, Sophie. These guys are grifters par excellence. I call them the ginger and the whinger. There's no public-facing events. Everything's by invitation only. There's a couple of things, as you saw today at the Royal Children's Hospital, but that's just to give a bit of, froth and bubble out there for the media. Most of this is a commercial enterprise. It's to make money.
When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle touched down in Australia, it was supposed to feel huge, a major comeback to a place that once couldn't get enough of them, but something instantly felt off. The usual chaos just wasn't there. No screaming crowds packed at the airport, no wild camera flashes lighting everything up, no electric buzz in the air. Instead, their arrival felt almost too calm, quiet. Almost eerily quiet. They skipped the big photo moment completely and moved out in a tight, controlled convoy, barely acknowledging the press at all.
Why did you think you'd stop on your walk today?
Well, we're actually just on a quick lunchtime walk. We work around the corner, saw the crowd gathered, asked your video guy what's going on, and it's only so often that you stumble across elite ginger.
Every move looked planned, every second carefully managed, and people started noticing fast. Then came the moment that really made things feel different. Their first stop, a major hospital in Melbourne. You would expect cheers, excitement, something loud, but that didn't happen. The crowd didn't erupt. No big reaction, no wave of energy. Just this awkward silence hanging in the air, and then a soft, hesitant hi from somewhere in the crowd. Not a chant, not applause, just hesitation. It was subtle, but it hit hard. In that moment, you could feel the shift clear as day. This wasn't 2018 anymore, not even close. Back then, they were everywhere, newly married.
Our leading figures in the Australian media that I've spoken to have described this trip as a new low for Harry. They're not happy. They've said that the trip is going to backfire horribly. Australia are not happy at all.
Much more downgraded way of getting here. They arrived here just after 6:30 on a commercial jet.
I've never seen anybody look so refreshed getting off a flight from the US. He looked great. Okay. Prince Harry, yeah.
What about Meghan?
I didn't see her.
Full of momentum, seen as the fresh future of the monarchy. Streets in Australia were flooded with people shouting their names, chasing every glimpse, pure hype, non-stop energy, total obsession. Now, the vibe feels completely different, way quieter, more cautious, almost like people are holding back. And for some watching, it doesn't just feel toned down. It feels like something has faded out completely, because this trip, it's not just another visit. It's happening after everything. Stepping away from royal duties back in 2020 changed everything. Interviews dropped, drama unfolded, controversy followed.
I spoke with quite a few of the passengers who came out into the arrivals area here at Melbourne Airport, and they said that they were really quite gobsmacked to have the Duke and Duchess on board their flight. This is what some of them had to say.
And they started rebuilding themselves as independent figures. And this is exactly where the tension starts creeping in. Because now people are asking, what are they really at this point? On the surface, it all looks familiar. Charity stops, hospital visits, meetings with local communities, the same kind of schedule people saw when they were working royals. But this time, there's a major twist, and it's impossible to ignore. This isn't an official royal tour. There's no palace backing, no royal system behind the scenes keeping everything in place. Instead, the vibe feels completely different, almost like a mix of wellness culture and personal branding, with things like yoga, manifestation, and sound healing getting thrown into the mix. And here's where it really shifts. This time, there's a price tag attached. That one detail flips the entire energy of the trip.
Harry and Meghan, welcome to Australia. Welcome, looking forward to it.
Everything. It's been great. Nice to be back.
Oh, so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Suddenly, it's not just about what they're doing, it's about why they're doing it. People are starting to question everything, and critics are not staying quiet. Some are raising serious eyebrows, asking if this is still genuine service, or if it's slowly turning into something else entirely. Is this about helping people, or is it building a full-scale brand image? And the more details that come out, the louder that debate gets. Even the way they traveled sparked conversation. No private jet, no over-the-top luxury arrival. They flew commercial instead, business class on a Qantas flight from Los Angeles to Melbourne. At first glance, it seemed simple, even refreshing. Some passengers were impressed, praising the decision and calling it a grounded move, especially skipping private travel.
What Australians are saying about Harry and Meghan, and saying that they are grifters. That's the reporting in Australia, and that they are using the country like an ATM. They're watching what the media down under are saying with a lot of interest.
But not everyone saw it that way, because even that choice, flying commercial, starts to feel calculated to some people, like it's part of a bigger strategy to appear relatable, more down to earth, more normal in the public eye. And at the exact same time, there are events connected to this visit that reportedly cost thousands just to get in. And that contrast is impossible to ignore. That's where everything starts to split. Opinions aren't just different, they're clashing hard. Some people were genuinely excited to see them on that flight. Passengers talked about friendly conversations, relaxed vibes, even surprise at how casual everything felt in person. It didn't feel stiff or scripted in that moment. It felt easy.
I mean, if you want to see Harry, it's $2,000 for a seat. If you want to watch him online, it's about $500. If you go along to this ridiculously named wellness retreat, it's called Her Best Life Retreat with Meghan. It's going to cost you $3,000. I mean, I know what Australians think of it, but how's it going down with the punters in the UK?
Almost unexpected. Then, inside the hospital, the energy softened. Children were smiling, families gathered close, and for a brief moment, it all felt warm again. Almost like the old days, and there were real interactions happening too. Meghan embraced patients, moving with care and attention, while Harry shook hands, spoke naturally with people around him, and didn't rush through the moment. Both of them stopped for photos, listened closely, and gave time, especially to the children in that space. Those moments felt genuine, simple.
Australian people are as real as it gets, okay? Sometimes brutally so. They don't take any prisoners, the Australians. They take no nonsense. And they don't like fakes, and they don't like phonies.
Human, present, but step outside those walls and the mood shifts fast. Because while those quiet, meaningful visits were happening inside, a completely different conversation was building outside, and it wasn't nearly as warm. More and more people are questioning what this visit actually stands for. They're not active working royals anymore. That decision was made clear when they stepped away and chose a different path. So now the big question keeps getting louder. Why does this still look like a royal-style tour? Why does it feel so official when there's no official role behind it? That question is everywhere right now, and it only gets more intense when money enters the picture. Because even though the trip is described as privately funded, reports suggest that some local security-related costs could still involve public resources, and that detail is raising serious eyebrows. That single detail has...
There were other people who were saying that they really respected the fact that they weren't obviously burning extra emissions by taking a private jet, and they were showing that they were one of the people. Some of the other passengers said that they were chatting to them about their kids and what they were going to be doing here, and they described them as being incredibly pleasant and very polite.
Sparked serious backlash online, and it's spreading fast. A petition pushing back against any public spending tied to their security has already pulled in tens of thousands of signatures. turning up the pressure even more. Tens of thousands. That's not random noise. That's organized frustration building quickly, and it's hitting a nerve that's been there for years, because this taps straight into a much bigger narrative surrounding Harry and Meghan. The idea that they stepped away from the royal system, but still move with that same level of spotlight, attention, and influence. People are starting to say it feels like they left the institution, but didn't fully leave everything that comes with it. And that's where this trip starts to look complicated. The charity visits, the appearances, the carefully planned events, it all seems to sit in this strange middle space. Not fully royal, not fully celebrity. Something in between, something blurred and hard to define.
And also, I think, as is typical with the fake Duchess, a lot of lies. A lot of lies designed to make us think that this is a success rather than the ultimate financial disaster which is coming because of a lack of ticket sales.
Some are even calling it a quasi-royal tour, and that label is sticking for a reason, because for critics, this is exactly where the discomfort begins. It opens the door to bigger questions, fast, questions about authenticity, about real intentions, about whether the focus is truly impact or staying visible in a world that moves on quickly, and that tension is hard to ignore. Nowhere is it more obvious than in the contrast between their public image and what's unfolding around them. Inside a Melbourne hospital, Meghan is seen connecting warmly with patients, offering support and encouragement in emotional, very real moments that shape how people see her. It feels personal, it feels real, and at the same time, it feels like every second is being watched closely by the public eye, because outside those moments, the headlines are going in hard, zeroing in on security costs, breaking down every move, and questioning the bigger picture behind this entire visit. Commentators aren't holding back.
They want those good headlines. We know Harry is in court with his former charity centre ballet. This is a PR exercise to try and repair their very badly damaged reputation.
Analysts are openly asking if this trip is quietly shifting into something else, a way to monetize that royal association. That word, monetize, keeps popping up again and again. And once it lands, it sticks. It changes how people see everything. Suddenly, every moment starts to feel different. Every appearance, every handshake, every perfectly timed photo. Even that quiet moment inside the hospital begins to look like more than just a simple interaction. It starts to feel symbolic, not just of a softer crowd reaction, but of something bigger, shifting public perception in real time. Because now, the image is changing. Less untouchable royalty, more like public figures trying to shape a new identity that doesn't fully fit anywhere. And the deeper this visit goes, the louder that question becomes. Who are they now? Because whatever that answer is, this trip through Australia might be the moment where everything finally starts to come into focus. What started as a quiet arrival is getting more layered by the day. Inside a busy Melbourne hospital, you see one version of the story, calm, emotional.
We do know that taxpayers are paying for their very hefty security costs.
Carefully managed moments between public figures and patients. But step outside, and a completely different narrative is unfolding in real time. Inside, it looks like compassion and connection. Harry moves easily through the crowd, stopping often, taking time, even crouching down to meet patients at eye level, making those interactions feel close and human. Their care, their lives, their personal journeys through treatment, those stories were right in front of them, and you could feel the weight of it all in the room. There was something natural in the way Harry moved through it, almost like muscle memory kicked in. Years inside the royal system showed up without effort. He knew exactly how to be in that space, how to connect without forcing anything. He looked comfortable, like this world still made sense to him. Someone who understands when to speak, when to listen, and how to make people feel seen without rushing past them. Meghan, on the other hand, leaned fully into the...
And you know, when you work in the media, you watch someone's camera awareness. I think Harry's there at the hospital genuinely in the moment. She knows exactly where the camera is. I mean, she is an actress. She's working the angles. It's all fake smiles. You can read it, can't you?
Emotional side of the visit, and she didn't hold back. She wasn't standing at a distance waving politely. She stepped in close, hugging children tightly, holding their hands, speaking softly with real encouragement, telling them to stay strong and keep pushing forward. At one point, a young patient handed Harry flowers. Another moment stood out when Meghan told a child to keep being brave. Moments like that stick with people because they feel genuine, simple, human, hard to ignore. And yet, the criticism didn't go anywhere, because as the visit continued, it became harder and harder to separate those emotional moments from everything happening around them.
So if you think the Australians are excited about their trip, think again, right? It's not happening.
The picture wasn't getting clearer. It was getting more complicated by the minute. Then, right after leaving the hospital, Meghan didn't disappear into private downtime. She stepped straight into another carefully chosen setting, a women's shelter in Melbourne, supporting people dealing with homelessness and serious life challenges. And she didn't just show up. She got involved. Wearing an apron, she moved through the kitchen, serving food, helping prepare meals, smiling, and blending into the environment like she was part of it. It was active, hands-on, and visually powerful in a way that instantly grabs attention. On the surface, it hits hard emotionally. A former royal figure inside a shelter kitchen, cooking for vulnerable women.
And as the couple touch down in one of the most beautiful countries in the world, they arrive in a land where they're not wanted, where there is a petition to prevent their visit. And with locals furious that they'll have to shoulder some of the cost of the couple's security.
It sends a strong message about service, connection, and showing up for real struggles. It creates an image people immediately understand and react to. But then comes the detail that shifts everything again, because while she was working in that kitchen, she was also wearing a designer outfit reportedly worth over $1,000. And just like that, the message becomes more layered, more complicated, and a lot harder for people to agree on. On one side, she comes across grounded, relatable, easy to connect with. But on the other, she's still clearly linked to luxury, fashion, and high-end branding, and that contrast is impossible to miss. That tension between accessibility and privilege, it's getting louder every single day, and people are not ignoring it. Because now, it's not just about what they're doing. It's about how every tiny detail is being read, analyzed, and broken down by the public. Every moment gets pulled apart from different angles, with people forming completely different conclusions at the same time.
It'll run to hundreds of thousands of dollars to look after them over these 4 days.
While these images spread, Meghan working in a kitchen, Harry laughing and connecting with children, there's another reality unfolding just nearby, and that reality looks very different, because in that space, access isn't just about showing up. It's about paying. Tickets are being sold, prices climbing into the thousands, not just for entry, but for proximity, for experience, for that feeling of exclusivity. The upcoming wellness retreat in Sydney isn't being treated like a casual meet-up. It's being presented as something much bigger. A luxury escape built around access and exclusivity. It's a fully curated experience centered heavily around Meghan herself. Attendees are expected to pay thousands just to be part of it. Yoga sessions, guided manifestation, sound healing practices, and something harder to define but heavily promoted, closeness to the brand. And that word, brand, is carrying serious weight right now, because what's unfolding across Australia doesn't really feel like a traditional public visit anymore. It feels more structured.
Well, this is very much a non-royal royal tour. They are, of course, still to be named the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. However, it certainly doesn't have the same amount of pomp and ceremony that we saw when they last visited Australia in 2018.
More calculated, more strategically mapped out from start to finish. There's this growing sense that every stop, every appearance, every event is connected, part of a bigger system that blends visibility with something else entirely: commercial intent. It doesn't just feel like a presence anymore, it feels like a full production. Even Prince Harry's role in this visit fits right into that same shifting pattern. He's not showing up as a working royal. That chapter is clearly behind him. Instead, he's stepping in as a speaker and advocate, focusing on topics like mental health and workplace well-being. On paper, it lines up perfectly with what he's been talking about for years. At first glance, it makes total sense, but there's another layer underneath all of it, and people are starting to notice, because his appearances are also tied to structured events with paid access tiers. Different levels, different prices, different kinds of experiences, all depending on how much someone is willing to spend.
So if Harry and Meghan's trip to Australia was a dream in 2018, then in 2026, it's a horrible nightmare with controversy, anger, and recriminations around the visit.
Just to be in that space. And that detail changes everything. Suddenly, the way people interpret it shifts. The same question keeps coming back, louder every time. Where does service end? And where does business begin? Because right now, that line is getting harder and harder to see. And people aren't staying quiet about it either. This conversation is happening out loud, in real time, across public platforms, and it's not slowing down. As the visit continues, so does the pushback. Concerns around security funding have only grown stronger. Even though the trip is being described as privately funded, reports suggest local authorities are still involved in safety planning and logistics behind the scenes. And for a lot of people watching, that immediately raises tension. Why should public resources, even indirectly, be part of protecting individuals who are no longer in official royal roles? That question has hit hard. An online petition pushing back against the use of public funds has now passed 45,000 signatures, and that number keeps climbing. And it's not just a number. It represents something deeper. Frustration.
Not thinking that the royal couple was going to be coming in on just a commercial airlines, on a Qantas flight, but actually taking a private jet. But it was QF94.
Doubt, a growing feeling among some people that the situation doesn't fully add up the way it's being presented. And that gap is exactly what's keeping this controversy alive. But this conversation isn't staying with the public. It's spilling straight into media analysis and expert commentary, and the tone is getting sharper. Commentators, analysts, and royal watchers are becoming way more direct in how they frame what's happening. Some aren't even softening their words anymore. They're saying it outright. There's a growing view that this entire visit signals a shift in strategy for Harry and Meghan's post-royal life. One that leans less on traditional public service and more toward visibility that can be monetized. That idea isn't hidden. It's being openly debated, and at the center of it is something simple but powerful. The suggestion that they're still leveraging the identity they once stepped away from. Because even without official roles, that royal connection still carries serious weight. It still grabs attention. It still opens doors. It still fills seats and drives interest in a way few others can. And that's where things get complicated, fast, because in Australia, that dynamic isn't subtle. It's playing out in real time, almost right in front of everyone. Every appearance, every speech, every carefully structured event seems to sit right in that middle space.
Although I'm not going to call it a tour, okay? They're not here formally as guest of government. They're not working royals. We know that now. This is a 4-day commercial venture to milk money out of Australians.
Between public service and commercial opportunity, and that overlap, that's exactly what keeps the debate alive. Even without directly saying it, the system around these events still benefits from the recognition, status, and attention tied to their past roles. And once that connection is in motion, it's not easy to separate. Right now in Australia, that tension is everywhere, from the hospital visit to the women's shelter, from the mental health summit to the high-end retreat. It all starts to feel connected, like one long chain of moments building on each other. Nothing stands alone anymore. Every appearance feeds into a bigger narrative that's unfolding in real time, right in front of the public eye. an image of relevance, an image of purpose, but also an image of opportunity. And maybe that's exactly why reactions are split so sharply down the middle. For some people, they're still doing meaningful work, showing up, meeting people face to face, using their platform to spotlight important causes, and creating moments that feel real and impactful. But for others, it lands completely differently. It feels staged. It feels curated. It feels like every moment is carefully arranged, not just to help, but to be seen helping, recorded helping, remembered helping. And that's where the tension really takes hold and refuses to let go.
The Duke is not welcome in Australia, and that in fact the Australian people don't like Harry and they don't like Meghan. The direct quote: "Australians hate being used, and that's what these two proven troublemakers are doing."
In today's media world, perception moves faster than truth, and that difference changes everything. Because now, authenticity isn't something people just accept. It gets questioned nonstop. Every detail, no matter how small, is being watched, picked apart, and analyzed in real time. You see it in the subtle things, the way crowds react, the way excitement sometimes fades into quiet observation. Instead of loud cheers, and that quiet, it says more than people think. That soft, almost hesitant moment, a simple greeting that barely rises above a whisper, can carry more weight than a stadium full of noise ever could, because that silence isn't empty, not even close. It's filled with uncertainty. Uncertainty about who they are now, uncertainty about what they really represent, uncertainty about whether this story still feels the same to people who once believed in it without hesitation. And as this Australian visit keeps moving from city to city, event to event, that uncertainty only grows stronger, because the deeper you look, the harder it becomes to ignore what's sitting right in front of everyone. Contradictions, compassion and commerce, connection and calculation, service and strategy, all existing side by side, blending into one complicated picture that's playing out live. And all of it keeps circling back to one question that won't go away. Not where they are, not what they're doing, but why? Why now? Why this kind of tour? Why present it this way, in this moment, in this setting? And maybe most importantly, what are they actually trying to become through all of this? By the time this Australian tour reaches its final stretch, the conversation isn't just about appearances anymore.
Duke and Duchess have stressed this tour is self-funded. There's been a lot of debate about who might pay for any police involvement. Blake, today I have seen no police accompanying them. They are in two private vehicles getting around town.
It's about meaning. It's about direction, identity, and whether the public is still willing to see it the way it's being presented, because every stop adds another layer, stacking tension on top of tension until it's impossible to ignore. Are they still tied to the idea of royalty in the public mind? Or have they fully shifted into something else entirely? On the surface, everything looks structured and purposeful. Their schedule is packed, tightly organized, moving with precision from one engagement to the next. One moment, they're inside a major Melbourne hospital, sitting with patients facing serious health challenges, speaking calmly, listening closely, offering time that feels personal and direct. The next moment, they're out in community spaces, visiting support organizations, attending events focused on mental health awareness, and engaging with veteran well-being programs. And with every shift, every appearance, every carefully timed moment, the bigger picture only becomes more intense, more layered, and harder for people to define. Each appearance is crafted to send a message of service, a message of relevance, a message of presence, and for some people watching, that message lands perfectly. No confusion, no hesitation. It comes through exactly as intended. But for others, it doesn't fully stick the same way.
And it's Harry who has sparked outrage in particular, with a tour which is considered cynical, dishonest and insulting to Australians, as Harry and Meghan head to the New World to revive their flagging fortunes and to revive their flagging reputation.
Because surrounding those same carefully planned moments is another layer that keeps showing up, no matter how the story is framed. You see it in the visuals. Meghan Markle moving through structured community spaces, stepping into service-focused environments, interacting with staff, presenting herself in settings designed to reflect humility and connection. At the same time, you see Harry positioned in a different role, speaking at mental health discussions, framed as a leading voice in conversations around workplace well-being and emotional health. On the surface, it all aligns. It all makes sense. But underneath that, there's another structure that keeps drawing attention. Ticketed appearances, paid retreats, high-cost access events, exclusive experiences that aren't open equally to everyone, but instead depend on pricing tiers, entry levels, and how much someone is willing to spend to be part of it. A wellness retreat in Sydney linked to Meghan, reportedly costing thousands to attend, built around curated sessions, yoga, guided practices, wellness experiences designed to feel personal and exclusive. A conference appearance by Harry, structured with different access levels.
Their first engagement tomorrow is an event for Movember. They'll be at Whitten Oval, also some Bulldogs players there. That's the first thing they have tomorrow morning.
Where pricing can shape how close someone gets, what they experience, and how much interaction they receive. And it's this dual structure that defines the entire tour, because while the public sees emotional moments, community engagement, professional environments, conversations about support systems and well-being, they're also seeing something else form at the exact same time. A system, a framework, a carefully constructed public-facing identity that's evolving right in front of them. And that's where the tension becomes impossible to ignore. Because when you strip everything back and look closely, the question shifts. It's no longer just about whether good work is being done. It becomes more complex than that. It turns into a question of separation, whether those visible, meaningful moments exist on their own, or whether they're connected to something bigger behind the scenes, something coordinated, something strategic, something that could also be tied to financial opportunity. And critics are not staying quiet about this. Not at all. In fact, the language around this visit is getting sharper, more direct, and harder to ignore as time goes on. Terms like quasi-royal tour are being used more often, showing up across commentary and analysis, along with arguments that their former royal status is still being leveraged as a powerful form of global influence, even without any official role attached to it. Some commentators are now saying that this kind of influence doesn't just exist, it naturally turns into serious commercial potential. Through speaking engagements, branded wellness events, curated public experiences, all of it stacking into something much bigger than it first appears. And that's exactly where the controversy keeps building, because even without official roles or formal titles, their past identity still carries major weight. It still grabs attention, it still pulls in crowds, it still fills seats at events without needing much explanation. And in Australia, that dynamic is showing up everywhere you look, from structured engagements to high-profile appearances, from community outreach to premium.
It is their first time here since 2018. Very different world for them now. They are no longer royals. They're no longer working royals. They're not addressed as His and Her Royal Highness anymore. They live in California. So a very different memory they will have from when they were here in Melbourne last time.
High-cost experiences, it's all happening at the same time, layered on top of each other. And that framing changes everything. Because once you start seeing it that way, every single moment begins to shift in meaning, right in real time. A hospital visit doesn't just look like a hospital visit anymore. It starts to feel like part of a bigger narrative. A charity appearance isn't just charity work. It becomes positioning, image building, a carefully placed moment in the public eye. Even something as simple as walking through a crowd gets dissected, analyzed, and reinterpreted from every possible angle. And that's the environment they're operating in now. A space where nothing feels neutral anymore. Not the actions, not the timing, not even the quiet moments, especially not the silence. Because one of the loudest parts of this entire visit is actually What hasn't been said? The quiet receptions, the restrained reactions, the noticeable lack of that overwhelming energy that once followed them everywhere in Australia. Back in 2018, it was completely different. They were newly married, still active working royals, seen as a fresh symbol of the monarchy's future, and the atmosphere matched that. It was loud, electric, unstoppable. Crowds packed the streets, voices everywhere, excitement spilling over at every stop. Now, the tone has clearly shifted. It feels more controlled, more measured, and in some moments, noticeably hesitant. And that shift alone tells a powerful story without needing a single extra word, because it brings up the question that keeps following them from place to place. If public perception has changed this much, what does that mean for the identity they're trying to build now? Because make no mistake, they are still actively shaping it. Every engagement on this tour adds another layer. Every carefully selected location builds on the image. Every speech, every interaction, every headline feeds into something bigger. A version of themselves being constructed in real time, one that exists completely outside the monarchy, but still carries echoes of everything that came before. Outside the institution that once defined their entire public life, but still influenced by it in ways that are hard to fully shake off. And that's exactly where the contradiction sits. They are no longer working royals. That part has been made clear. They stepped away, created distance, built independence, and chose a completely different path forward. But here's the thing. The language around them never fully lets go of that past. They're still referred to by their titles, still discussed through the lens of royal history.
This is absolutely hideous. The Sussex's money-grabbing fake royal trip to Australia is already a hot mess. It's a public relations dumpster fire. It is a disaster.
Still measured against the very institution they left behind, and that tension between who they were and who they are now. That's what keeps this entire visit under a microscope, because at its core, this isn't just about Australia. It's about identity. It's about perception. It's about who really controls the narrative in a world where control slips fast and doesn't come back easy. And in today's global media space, that control is never guaranteed. Not even close. That's why every single moment of this trip feels amplified beyond what it looks like on the surface. Every handshake, every speech, every quiet pause from a crowd, even the smallest details, a soft hi in a hospital hallway, a quick comment about being back, get pulled into something much bigger than the moment itself. Because at this point, the story doesn't fully belong to them anymore. It's being shaped in real time by everyone watching. And then there's the financial side, the layer that just won't go away. Even with repeated claims that the trip is privately funded, reports suggesting involvement of public safety resources have kept tensions high. The idea that taxpayers could still be indirectly connected to security arrangements? That's been enough to spark serious backlash. An online petition has already pulled in tens of thousands of signatures, and that number isn't just a stat, it represents real pushback. Because in this context, it's not only about money, it's about meaning. It raises a bigger question about whether visits like this should carry any connection to public responsibility or expectation at all. And so, the same pattern keeps repeating. Every appearance brings praise and criticism at the same time. Every emotional moment gets matched with skepticism. Every attempt to connect is followed by questions about motive. And underneath all of it, one question keeps getting louder. Are Harry and Meghan still part of a story people truly believe in? Or are they now performing a version of something that once defined them? Because as this Australian tour reaches its final stretch, there's no clean ending waiting. No single moment that wraps everything up. No clear answer that settles the debate once and for all. Just the reality that the space they now occupy is more complicated than ever. Not fully royal, not fully celebrity, something in between. Still forming, still debated, still being interpreted in real time. And maybe that's exactly why this visit stands out so much. Because it's not just a tour anymore. It's a mirror reflecting not only who they're presenting themselves to be, but also how the world is choosing to see them right back. Now it's your turn. What do you think about all of this? Drop your thoughts in the comments and join the conversation. If this breakdown made you see things differently, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and share this with someone who needs to hear it.